What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Progressive Gentleman Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dan.
I'm Matt.
And we're here with our wives today, actually, which is exciting. I don't know if they're as excited, but, you know, that's what it is. And we're going to be doing a concert review episode, a little long overdue here. We've been kind of on a hiatus. Apologies for that.
Yeah, life's been crazy.
Yeah, you know, we're not immune to the craziness of life just because we do a podcast that like 40 people listen to. So, no, I'm just kidding. But
We appreciate the 40 people.
we do, yeah. Shout out to all 40 of you. But yeah, we recently, well, relatively recently, I suppose, went to Rivers of Nihil and Contortionist. That show was absolutely nuts, and we really wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, it was at Mr. Small's in Millvale. Actually, a venue that I haven't been to in quite a while.
Yeah, they've kind of been, the concerts in this area have been all over the place these days. There's a bunch of random venues, and Smalls has always been one of my favorites, so I was happy to go back there, and always good to see one of my favorite bands there as well.
Yeah, I think actually the last time I was there, I went to see Secondhand Serenade with my dad back when I was in college. So it's been a solid probably 10 years, but yeah, it's a great venue.
Jeez.
We haven't gone to a show together there?
I don't think so. Maybe there's one in there that I'm missing, but Matt and I, back in the day, went to see Norma Jean, Stick to Your Guns, and some other...
Impending Doom.
Impending Doom, that's right. They're back in 2011, I think we figured out that was.
Yeah, I think that's when it was.
Yeah, so 11 years ago, and then the Secondhand Serenade was after that. And I don't think that you and I have been back together since, unless I'm misremembering. So yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, I guess usually when I go, it's either with Dan, and I went with Kevin a few times to see Norma Jean and a few other shows.
Norma Jean's awesome. Stick to Your Guns is awesome. That sounds like a cool show.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Steph, when was the last time we went to Smalls?
I don't remember.
I know we saw Veil of Maya.
Yeah, it was probably Veil of Maya, or didn't we see the Deer Hunter there too?
We did. Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
With Between the Buried and Me and Leprous, that was sweet.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good show.
I think Veil of Maya was the most recent though.
Yeah, Veil of Maya. They came with Intervals and Cryptodira.
And the whole show ended in 30 minutes.
Oh, it was ridiculous. They didn't even talk to the crowd. It was like they didn't want to be there. It was nuts. They came out and just like speed play, like everything was played at like an increased tempo. It just seemed like they did not want to be there. They're like, all right, get in, get out. I think that show literally ended at like 10 o'clock, and there were like 3 or 4 bands. There might have been a 4th band that I just am forgetting.
It was great that it was that fast because I had to go to work the next day.
It was a weekday. Us old folk were real pumped about the.
It's like listening to a podcast on like 1.5 or 2 times speed. You just like get through it quicker and still get the content. It's like, all right, let's wrap this up. Let's go.
It's like, I want to do this, but I would like it to be a lot quicker than it is. Yeah,
that was definitely our most recent because that was my first experience with the Smalls seats where you eat what you pay for the seats.
Yeah, which is awesome. That venue, you know, if you want to have a seat. You know, in our old age, we like to do that. I mean, I still like to be, you know, in the mosh pit area and stuff like that every once in a while. But, you know, my back tightens up. You know, I'm not as limber as I once was. So, and when you tell me that I can have a seat and a cheeseburger, I'm probably gonna opt for that option. So.
And the seat's free because you get the money and credit for the food then.
Yeah,
so.
It's
win-win.
And beer.
Yeah,
food,
whenever you guys
whatever.
told me about how the seats work, I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
like, how does that work? I was like, are you sure? Like, it just seemed strange that it's like...
It's too good to be true, and the fact that more people don't do that is crazy.
Well, it's probably because everyone has the same reaction that we did, that like, I don't believe
like,
you.
that
What's
can't
the
be
catch?
real.
Well, now you know.
We really I feel like every time we do a concert review on this podcast, whether it's the 4 of us or just Dan and Matt, there's always some discussion of the food. We obviously all really like our cheeseburgers and mozzarella sticks on this podcast.
If we ever get more time, our spin-off podcast will be about food.
Yes. I like that idea. I mean, I try to bring like some kind of food reference into every aspect of my life. I think it's, you know, It just,
always be thinking about food.
If you talk about what you love,
Yes.
Yeah.
that's just
Eat to live, live to eat.
Exactly.
Let's get into this actual concert here, because that's another thing on the concert review episodes is, the first
actual-
15 minutes is about everything but the concert, and then we finally dive into it. So let's
We're
dive
setting up
into
the
it,
scene, painting a picture for them.
Exactly.
You're
I want
right.
you to
You're right.
virtually taste the hamburger before you can really get an idea of what it was like.
What kind of burger was it? It was like, it wasn't just a normal cheeseburger. It was like a
There was bacon on it
Yeah,
and
there's- yeah,
cheddar
there's-
cheese, I think.
It's like white. Yeah, I think it was like white cheddar.
barbecue sauce or
No,
something? No.
it wasn't, no.
Am I making that
They
up?
did have one of those. I don't know if that's what you guys had.
Oh, I don't remember what I got. It doesn't matter.
I got a chicken
all right.
sandwich, actually. That was different. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We're back to the food. All right, flipping the switch here. So we actually did the VIP experience, getting back to the concert. So we actually got to do they got rid of the meet and greet and just kind of summed it into a Q&A because members of the band have been sort of hit or miss on this tour. I know Lessard missed a couple. I know Eric, the keyboardist, missed a couple, and I know Cam, the lead guitarist, or one of the guitarists. I don't know if he's considered the lead guitarist or if Robbie is, but
He wasn't at our show.
yeah, he missed most of the tour. So they kind of scrapped the meet and greet and just summed it all up into a Q&A. So we got to do the Q&A, asked a couple questions. I honestly don't even remember the questions I asked. I asked something about what their inspirations were for the new record. I think that was one.
You said album of the year.
Oh, yeah, I asked what their album of the year was. I don't remember a single one because I didn't recognize any of them. I think maybe one of them said Meshuggah.
Well, yeah, and there were like 3 of them said like the same album from like some black metal band.
Yeah, some random black metal band that I'd never heard of. I wish.
Well, they didn't
should've
even remember it either. They had to like look it up. One of
Yeah,
them found it
pulling
was
up
like
their
this band.
Spotify.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah,
it was,
but
the inspiration question I thought was cool, and it was like kind of like just painting a picture in your head of like what is this album gonna sound like.
yeah, because they I know like Lessard cited like Good Apollo, Coheed, and a Circa Survive record.
There was the Coheed drop for the the episode.
There's my Coheed mention.
Coheed and food.
Yes, those are every episode.
That's Dan to a T.
They also said something. Yes, it is. They said something about like something industrial. They said like the new record has like industrial.
Yeah, I think they said 9 Inch Nails was one.
Yeah, 9 Inch Nails. Yep.
And they said one of them said like Depeche Mode, I think, was some inspiration for
that
like
was,
at least one of their songs.
Yeah, that was Eric, the keyboardist, said that.
Oh yeah.
He said he made a song that he wasn't even like really writing to be part of the record. It was just something that he was messing with, and he was like, "There's no way that anybody in this band is going to even be interested in this song." And then it kind of took off, and like became like its own thing, and now I guess it's going to be on the record. So I'm thinking this record might test the fan base a little bit, maybe, but the other part of the VIP experience was we got to hear 2 songs from it, and I actually was pleasantly surprised. I don't know about you guys, but hearing sort of the way they were talking about the record, and it's going to be industrial rock, prog rock, whatever. I was like, all right, well, I'm into that kind of stuff. But whenever they're saying how experimental and stuff they were getting, I was like, oh, I don't know. Anytime a band gets experimental, things can go off the tracks real fast. And
yeah, I think from the bands they initially listed, that was like kind of my thought too, was like, where is this going to go? And because like trying to paint the picture in my head, I'm like, this sounds interesting. I don't know if it's good or bad interesting, but the 2 tracks that they played, I enjoyed them. And it honestly didn't seem to stray that far from like their Clairvoyant and like the Our Bones EP. Like it kind of felt like a natural extension, like natural progression. Like it didn't seem too outlandish from those.
yeah, I agree. I felt like it sounded like a Clairvoyant continuation almost.
Which I'm okay with. I mean,
yeah, same. I mean,
obviously some Exoplanet would be sweet, but I know that that's not where they're going. So
Parts of it seemed heavier than Clairvoyant, though, because there were some screams in it.
Yeah, and some like maybe gang vocals too. Even like it was interesting. But yeah, overall, I thought. I mean, it sounded. I agree. There were parts of it that still had those heavy elements, and while still sort of continuing on the path. Like I don't know how much of a progression. I mean, again, we heard 2 songs. And none of which sounded overly industrial to me. So if they're like during the Q&A all sort of saying how industrial this new record is, and we barely heard any of it on the 2 singles or the 2 tracks they decided to share with us, I think we're in for a lot of surprises on the record when it drops. But just hearing those 2 songs, I think that's enough for me to like be content and I think it's going to be a good record.
Yeah, I enjoyed both songs that they played. The one thing that did throw me off, and maybe this was just my misunderstanding, is I thought they were going to play those 2 songs live, whereas they just played recordings of them, which was fine, and it was still really cool to get to hear them early and stuff and kind of have that exclusive access. I didn't even realize it was like that's what they were doing at first, that they were playing the songs from the new album, because I thought they were going to play them live. Like they said that the guys from the band were going to go get something to eat and then they would be back. So I kind of thought that when they played the songs, it was just kind of like, kind of like fill-in music like you hear in venues between sets or whatever. And it kind of took me a minute to realize, oh wait, these are the songs from the new album. So I felt like I kind of missed like the first probably minute of the song just because I wasn't really fully paying attention. Did anyone else think that, or was that just me?
So, and Dan and I went to another VIP with a contortionist, and they did the same exact thing. I think it was when they were doing a sneak peek for Clairvoyant. So that's just kind of their style, the way that they do things. But we had that experience before, so we kind of knew that was what was going on.
Yeah, okay. That's probably the only reason why we kind of knew the deal. Was we had a similar experience back at the Rex before that went under. R.I.P. to that wonderful establishment.
I think
was that the Rex or was that the one in Baltimore when we went?
That was at the Rex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
because we did the VIP in Baltimore too.
Yeah, we did the Q&A. So it's funny. I asked a similar question at a Q&A in Baltimore whenever they were releasing Clairvoyant, and I think it was the same tour. No, it wasn't. And I asked what the inspiration was for that record, and Lessard also cited Good Apollo from Coheed. So apparently that's just a go-to for him.
Just inspires him for everything.
Yeah, but
that's cool.
But yeah, so that was something that we kind of knew what to expect. So that's kind of why we knew. But just kind of how Coheed does stuff with their VIPs, which you guys got to experience. They do like the early entry song.
Even though we didn't get the song.
Yeah, Steph and I did not get to experience it. Yeah.
Well, Matt, you and I got to experience
it.
So I could understand that confusion there. There was a lot of things that were.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask. So Matt, I think, started to say that he was kind of in the same boat as me, where he thought it was actually going to be live.
Yeah, I think up
that's
front,
an understandable situation.
Yeah, like up front, that's what I thought was like going into it. But then like once they said about them like going to eat and stuff, like then I was like, oh, they're not actually going to play it live. Like I wasn't like waiting for it whenever it was playing. Like so it wasn't exactly the same as you, but I like when I bought the tickets was thinking like, oh, we're gonna watch them perform it, kind of thing. Like I didn't know if they would do like an acoustic sort of like the like language type deal, like versions of the songs or something, or just play them normally with their like the electric instruments, not like the reimagined versions. But
yeah, it took me a little longer to catch on.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so I mean, overall, I think the VIP thing was cool. It would have been cooler if they played the songs live, but it was cool to still get the sneak peek.
And we were all the very first people to get into the venue too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to you guys for getting there early and for us to not give a shit and to skip the line. Sorry for anybody who was in that line, but I mean, it was fine. You got in. It was fine.
Yeah, I mean, there were
Yeah.
only like 20 people, so it's not like they didn't get in or anything, or they got in late or missed anything.
Yeah.
So,
The only real benefit that I got out of that was whenever you go to Smalls, typically if they had any posters for the event hanging in the venue, they take them down before the show starts and they put them on the table whenever you walk in that you can just take. And there was only one of them, so I took that, so it's mine now.
There you go.
But so that was really the only benefit is someone else who probably would have taken it lost out. So sorry about that, but I also don't really care that much. I'm just kidding.
you snooze,
But
you
any-
lose.
Anyways, so yeah, VIP was cool, and then Rivers of Nile. We got thrown another curveball by these guys. I guess I didn't realize this, but the vocalist, who is now no longer with the band, we can touch on that for a hot second in a little bit, but I didn't realize that he hadn't been performing with them for most of the tour leading up to our show. So it wasn't just like our show that he didn't play.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
I guess for like 75% of the tour, it was the bass player doing vocals. So, but I didn't hear about that. I didn't know that going into the show. So that was a little bit of a surprise when they came out to play and were like, we have a slight lineup change. Our vocalist is not playing with us. All right, here we go. And I was like, wait, what? So I mean, I thought he did a good job still, but it was a little bit of a curveball. But yeah, if you didn't know, Rivers of Nile played The Work in its entirety, which is their newest record. It dropped, I think it was last year, right?
Yeah, I think it was like late last year. I want to say like sometime around October, but I don't remember for certain.
Did that make either of our lists?
It was on my list, but I wasn't in my top 10 of my list. Like I was on like I ranked it and rated it and stuff, but I don't think it made my top 10. But I have been listening to it more, and I feel like I definitely did underrate it. So it may have, if I relook at my list from last year, it may have moved up into my 10.
Or an honorable mention.
Yeah, at the very least.
Yeah, honestly, I'm looking at our lists. It did not make our top 10, but yeah, I think it should have.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody out there hasn't listened to Rivers of Nile. It's like it's a pretty awesome blend of like progressive metal meets like death metal-ish, like, some of the stuff is death metal-ish, but then they also have a saxophone player that plays pretty consistently through their records, and so you get that like jazzy feel almost, and like that symphonic ambient feel at times. Like overall, I just think their music is very awesome, and yeah, it was really cool to see live. They brought the guy that plays sax along with them for the tour, so it was cool to get like the full effect, minus the lead vocalist, obviously. But to sort of get that part of it, he steps up and onto the little platform there and plays his solo.
Yeah, that was cool.
And it's just, yeah, it was a cool experience.
Yeah, I never actually listened to them before this concert, and I felt like it was the bassist who ended up doing the vocals, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I felt like he did a good job, and when they first came out and said that the singer wasn't going to be there, I kind of expected there to just not be vocals at all. Like I kind of expected it would just be instrumental. So when the bassist started singing, I was like, oh wow. And I mean, this is obviously a perspective of someone who's never listened to them before, but I thought he sounded good and did a good job. And I always love when bands do just have something different, like whether it's a brass instrument or, woodwinds or strings or whatever it might be, to kind of be a little bit different from just your standard like electric guitar, bass, singer, and drums. So I really appreciated the saxophonist, and I thought he did a really good job too.
Yeah, and their instrumentals are no joke too. Like they
Yeah.
are very talented. From bass to, and the drummer does vocals too, and obviously their drums are intense, and so the fact that those guys could sort of make up for the fact that the lead vocalist was not present while still playing their instruments to the caliber that they did. That was very impressive to me. I do think that they would have benefited and will benefit moving forward from sort of filling that vacancy. But I think they're going to be just fine in the interim as far as just the tours that they still have on the docket and stuff. Because I do think, like you said, that they kind of pulled together and yeah, if you hadn't listened to them prior to that show, to that tour or whatever, they you wouldn't have even known that they didn't have a lead vocalist there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious whether they will, if they will replace him in the long run, or if they're just going to, because like I read I think it was from Metal Sucks, the article that he's not going to be, like that he's, I don't know if he was like kicked out or it was like a mutual agreement thing. Like it was kind of, the wording was a little like nebulous on like who made the decision and like if he was kicked out or he decided to step away or what. But I'm curious like whether they'll just run as the three piece and just keep it that way forever, or if and like until if and when the singer comes back, or if they plan on like finding a replacement in the long term.
The way that I read it, and I might not have been reading it right, but the way that I kind of read it is that he is going through some personal stuff and he didn't want to leave the band and the band didn't want to kick him out, but they sort of felt like that was the best decision for him as a person and them as a band, and kind of like if he wasn't going to make that decision on his own, then they were kind of forced to make it for him. And even though that's not what they wanted to do, it's kind of what they had to do. That's kind of how I read it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of room for assumption, I suppose, in the way that they kind of split. Yeah, and either way, hopefully the band stays together, stays strong, and hopefully, the vocalist, whatever he's going through, we wish him the best, obviously. And it would be nice if ultimately, whatever the situation is, if they could somehow reunite in some way, that would be ideal, I'm sure. But
They're a Pennsylvania band too, if you didn't know that.
Yep, they're from
Yeah.
Reading, I believe. Is
Yeah,
that right?
I was gonna say I thought that
think
it was
so,
like
yeah.
Reading, Lancaster, like sort of like eastern part of PA.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
and they have one of the best prog metal records of all time, and Where the Owls Know My Name. That's one of the best prog records I've ever listened to. I love that record. So
Yeah,
I would
they're-
highly recommend that as well. For anybody who has not heard of Rivers of Nile, definitely go check their stuff out. And we wish those guys the best moving forward. But let's flip gears here and talk about the main event, and that is the fact that the Contortionist played a tour where they played Language and Exoplanet in their entireties all in one night. Arguably their two best records.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too.
I would die on that hill.
I didn't even know that was up for debate.
People like to put Intrinsic up there. I think
I disagree.
people think that Language was kind of like a departure from their sort of like progressive deathcore-ish sound that they had on Intrinsic and Exoplanet. But I don't personally think that it's up for debate. Those are definitely their two best records, and it was awesome to see those live. And while we didn't get Cam to have sort of the full band arrangement for those two records, it was nice that we at least got Lessard for the entirety of it, because I know some people on this tour did not have that luxury. So overall, I think the experience was pretty fantastic. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think it was awesome. Like it would definitely like missed Cam. And there were like some parts where they have the kind of like they kind of add that like stereo effect of playing the same riff, but it's kind of like they each have their own like little flavor to it, so it kind of fills out the sound, and only having like one person playing it kind of it made it like a little flatter than it otherwise would have been, I think, with you know without Cam there. So there was definitely like a piece missing for sure, but I think just like the way they were able to make it work, a man down and stuff, it still was fantastic show, and there's so much energy. And I mean, playing two records of about 45 minutes a piece with only like a couple minute break in between, it's like I can't imagine like having that level of stamina to be able to perform those records. So like kudos to them for being able to like keep up with that and keep that level of energy. It was an awesome show.
Yeah, I was basically just gonna say the same thing, Matt. Just the fact that they could play those two albums in their entirety, and I mean it, they never seemed like they wavered, they never seemed like they lacked energy. There was a ton of energy the whole way through. I thought they just did an incredible job. The light show, which is always a something that I focus on when I go to see bands that are like progressive metal, progressive rock. I always expect a pretty exciting light show, and they certainly did not disappoint. That was awesome. Not as awesome as the music, of course, but it was a highlight.
They could have did a little less on the smoke machine though. They gassed us out.
Yes.
Half the time I
Yes,
wasn't
that's
confident there
true.
was a band on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to see them. That I kind of forgot about that. That was disappointing.
My lungs didn't forget about it.
Yeah, you
Hacking
couldn't
up a
breathe,
lung
you
from
couldn't
all the
see
fog.
them.
Matt, was this your first time seeing them, or have you seen them before?
No, this is I think would be my third time.
Oh, okay.
I I think there was a time in between, but the first time I saw them was with Dan. We went to see them with Animals as Leaders and Between the Buried and Me.
Yeah, that was
And
the Bohemian Rhapsody pit show.
yeah, and then I think there was one time in between, but I can't remember what the lineup for it was. It may have only been my second time, but I I feel pretty confident that there was another one in there. But
Steph, that means you've seen them probably more than Matt has. Congratulations.
I think I have.
yeah,
What was this? Four,
I think
five?
this was 5 for you. I
Wow.
think this might have crested into double digits for me. I'm not sure. I've seen these guys too much. We've seen them multiple
We
times
saw-
on a single tour before.
Yeah, the one that we went to New York City for,
Yeah,
right?
We saw them. Yeah, we've seen them in 4 states now.
wow.
I've seen them in 4 states, 5 states now. I forgot I saw them in North Carolina.
Yeah, I didn't go to that one.
Yeah. But yeah, I've seen them in 5 states now: North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New York. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I've
Probably second only to Coheed.
maybe Between the Buried and Me is ahead of them. Maybe. A lot of the times I've seen them though, I've
They're
seen Between the
with,
Buried
yeah.
and Me. So those guys tour together a lot. But to circle back to a point you made, Matt, about Cam's absence and how it impacted, they did have some backtracks of like some of recorded stuff of like his parts in certain spots, but I do think some of the epic moments that happen, especially in Exoplanet, like like the bridge section in like Oscillator, and like the solo section in Flourish, where those guys just sort of riff off of each other. I do think those suffered a little bit, like just the feeling that you like, whenever they're in the moment, like I feel like it's just a lot. It hits a lot harder whenever they're both there versus like soloing against a backtrack kind of thing. But overall, I think they did well in his absence. And thank God we had Lessard there.
yeah, that probably would have been like if I was going to the show and he wasn't there. Like I mean, I don't know if, because I didn't actually, was kind of like on a hiatus from social media with class and stuff, so I didn't see if they had any clips of the band performing without him. Did they like just do an instrumental version,
Yeah,
or did
that's what I was
someone else
wondering. Was it
sing?
just acoustic then?
So it was instrumental,
Or instrumental?
and occasionally Jordan did some vocals, the bass player.
Okay.
And then also, I don't know if he's a tour manager or just a guy that was like one of their tour managers or engineers or audio engineers or whatever, came out and would do Flourish.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's kind of cool, I guess.
And there
but
is a video of that, and it's pretty sweet. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I actually, now that you say that, I think I remember you showing me that video.
Yeah,
But
I
you-
do think I did. Yeah, the last time I was at your house. I think maybe the last time we recorded an episode. So that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, that's usually how long it's been since the show was too. So I'm glad we're
Yeah.
finally able to all, even though we're doing it virtually, I'm glad we're able to record and make an episode and talk about our
Yeah,
thoughts on the
for
show.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure, it is good to at least get back on the horse here.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of
Dust
time
off the
talking about
cobwebs.
Exoplanet. I felt like Language was done very well. I feel like that's the album that maybe they feel most comfortable playing these days. Just given whether it's difficulties or just I don't
Like
know.
Lessard's preference too.
Yeah, preference. Yeah, for I think they're kind of, especially Lessard, is getting away from the harsh vocals. I think that's probably the main reason for their progression to where they're at now, with like being mostly a progressive rock band. But yeah, they nailed Language. It was really awesome to hear Ebb and Flow in its entirety for the first time for me. They played a very miniature version of it, because I couldn't come up with a better word in that moment.
Abbreviated.
Yeah, abbreviated. Thank you. Words are hard sometimes. During their Reimagine tour, where they played 2 sets, and that was shortly after they released the Our Bones EP. They did a Reimagine tour, and that was like, and I actually have the drum head on my wall. 2018. And they had Ebb and Flow on the set list, and I was like, oh, this is sweet. I'm going to get to hear it. And literally all it was at the end of Flourish, the
They
like
just did-
spotlights came down on Lessard, and he just did the like drift with the ebb and flow like part, and then it was over, and that was the whole thing. And I was like, well, they didn't play it. They just did like the last 30 seconds of it. So it was cool to actually see the whole song played.
Yeah, I enjoyed, the whole thing. I know, I'm sure Matt was like a kid in a candy store getting to hear that. He has a poster, so I was just looking. I was like, "Is that Language?" Yes, it is. Okay.
Yeah, I actually pre-ordered that with the signed lithograph and stuff.
Yeah.
And never regretted it.
And Matt had a very intense eBay battle with
Oh, yeah.
random people on the internet to get that the vinyl. So
Yeah, I finally got it.
Did I ever
And,
tell you my story about the Language vinyl?
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think so.
So I'm not like in particular a like vinyl like variant collector. Like I don't try to like collect every variant for a record. I just like to have like whatever,
Unless it's Coheed.
unless it's cool. But even them I don't have every variant.
There's maybe like
Almost
one
all
you
of them.
don't have.
I do have almost all of them. But yeah, I don't typically collect variants, but I would like to have at least a copy of all of my favorite records on vinyl. And Language was one that I was missing. And it was when the only presses that existed were the original presses, and I really wanted one, and I had to like set up on eBay sort of like how you can have it so whenever one pops up you get an alert like new listing for whatever. So I had that set up, and I got alerted, and I was like, oh sweet, like it's there, and I bid on it, and I won it. I spent like $90 on this freaking vinyl.
Wow.
And literally an hour later, and this is not an exaggeration, 1 hour later they announced second presses
Oh no.
No.
for like $25. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Oh no.
Yeah, I bought that too.
Yeah, I don't think Matt paid that much. I think it was like 60 maybe with shipping.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
after
that's-
shipping.
So it wasn't that bad, but it was I don't know. I thought it was funny. I'm sure Matt probably didn't, but like the second that he would go up on the bid, it was just like, "Oh, you've been outbid." It was like, "Duh!" So just like knowing, how much that particular record means to him and stuff. I'm sure that was a very good experience.
Yeah, it was cool seeing, because the last time I saw them, or that I remember seeing them, was at the Between the Bear and Me one, and that was like shortly after Language came out, so I don't think they had done the rediscovered versions yet, and they haven't played the tracks as many times. So like getting to see it now, where you can see like how they morphed all the songs, and they're like, in some cases, vastly different than the studio album. So it was kind of cool getting to see those variations on the songs that I haven't seen. So like that part for me was pretty exciting, because like Exoplanet, by and large, they played mostly the same. Like there were like little things they changed, but it seemed mostly like album, like studio album stuff. And then like Language, they kind of went more with the reimagined side of things. Like, I mean, it wasn't acoustic, but they definitely changed it from the studio album.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, Language is a pretty big record for me too. And Steph actually put quote from the parable.
Multiple quotes. I apologize for misinforming. Multiple quotes in our in like her vows when we got married. So it's kind of
That's cool.
Yeah.
Little music Easter eggs in the vows.
But yeah, that's a cool record. It's one that one of those records that we both enjoy, like Stephanie and I. So it's nice to like kind of have albums like that in genre that is in a genre that's more my type of music, right? But that we both sort of enjoy like equally. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing that's so great about the Contortionist too, is like while they are heavy at times, they have that like approachable, clean vocal, and it's the same thing like with Colleen is, I feel like of the bands that I listen to, they're one of the more approachable ones for her. Like she tend to like in listening to them more than some of the other ones. Like, I mean, she always like appreciates the instrumentation and stuff, but sometimes some of the bands are a little too screamy for her, so she doesn't enjoy them quite as much. But Contortionist is always one that I feel like even my family, who's not a bunch of metalheads, like if I have it on, they don't like make a comment about it, which is more than most of the stuff that I listen to. So I don't know. I feel like they're most likely to kind of win people over who maybe aren't otherwise into metal.
Yeah, especially like the rediscovered stuff, or like certain songs off of Language or off of Clairvoyant or that Our Bones EP. I feel like they have a lot of accessible music for sure on their newer records.
Yeah, like even my mom, she also doesn't listen to metal really, but I sent her the Our Bones EP, like a link to it, and she listened to it and was like, "Oh, I really like this." And she like, I don't think she was expecting that. She expected it to be heavier. Because she knows like what I normally listen to, and because I've talked about the Contortionist so much, she, I think, went in like, I don't think I'm gonna like this, but she was actually like, wow, I like that quite a bit. So I think they are very like approachable. So anyone who listens to the podcast who hasn't listened to the Contortionist yet, definitely do so. I feel like there's something there for pretty much anyone who's into progressive music, whether
I feel
it be
like you're
rock
not
or
listening.
metal.
I feel like you're not listening to this podcast if you're not into progressive music in some fashion or heavy music.
Well,
in
I
some
mean, like,
fashion.
Unless you're everybody's like Dan's mom and
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
But then I'm also saying like, and then riffing off of that too. Like, and if you listen to progressive music or heavy music and you haven't heard of the Contortionist, you're probably living under a rock.
Yeah, I meant more like, because I definitely think like if you're into the progressive rock, that it's possible that you haven't listened to the Contortionist, and that's more what I meant by that was like,
No, that's fair.
if you're into like kind of the more like I don't know if there's any people like this that listen to the podcast, but more of the older like classic progressive rock, like into like kind of Rush and Yes and like those types of bands.
King Crimson.
Yeah, then like
Pink
maybe they're
Floyd.
not super
Oh, I stole
into
it.
the Contortionist, but like that, if there are any of you out there, definitely give them a shot. They're kind of, I would say, like as close to those type of bands as like modern progressive rock and metal gets.
Yeah,
I think.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a good sort of gateway band into the more modern sound. Maybe there's another maybe in between band to get you even to the Contortionist, but I think like their rediscovered stuff is really good. Is a really good material to show somebody who listens to, kind of the bands that we were just throwing out there. So
Yeah, we should do like a roadmap to Prague,
like that.
kind of episode of like if. I mean, I feel like if everyone like
If
you
you
said,
like
that
this,
is-
you'll like this, and
Yeah,
I thought about that as just like sort of even talking about like our own personal roadmaps of how we got to what we're listening to now, like
yeah.
how we progressed to progressive metal and progressive rock as like a potential future episode. I mean, we kind of touch on that a little bit, like very abbreviated. Now that I have that word in my repertoire.
you're welcome.
Thank you. We kind of did that abbreviated in our like Meet the Gentleman sort of episode where we talk about sort of our roots, but we don't really give like a detailed, this is where we started from here and now we're here kind of thing, and fill in all the gaps, like the evolutionary chart of our musical journey.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Bust
we
out
should
the cartographer.
yeah, we should bust out the roadmaps for ourselves of like just like I think would be cool as like a sort of nostalgia thing of like going back and thinking about, well, so who was I listening to at this point and then in this point, and like list some of the big bands that, and kind of like see our progression through music.
Yeah.
And then it would also be cool to just like see from people who listen to the podcast, like get feedback from them of like, what was your roadmap? Like, how did you get there?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, we could probably continue this all day, but maybe not all day on this topic, since it's supposed to, well, all day on just random shit, because we could riff on anything pretty much. But
We didn't talk about Lessard's little bop that he does by the drum kit.
oh yeah, how he
That's like my favorite part.
oh yeah, Lessard acts very robotic on stage. If you've ever seen them live, that's kind of his move. But like whenever it's going, like the bridge section in Oscillator or like the solo section in Flourish, he sort of robots himself over next to the drum kit and just starts like semi headbanging like with the music a little bit, like also robotic. I don't think he ever doesn't look robotic on stage.
Yeah, it is like weird that he like once the band starts playing, he does seem like he morphs into some sort of like sentient AI that it's like I've noticed
I wonder
that
if that'll
too.
change. I wonder if that'll change now that they're sort of because like that's kind of their whole theme, not theme, but like a lot of their stuff is very like spacey, space robots and space whatever the hell,
Yeah.
and like other sentient life forms that may not be human and whatever. Like I feel like I wonder if it'll change whenever they stop, because they've said this for years, for the last few years now, that because they did the like live stream during COVID where they played Exoplanet in its entirety, and Steph and I got, we bought that and definitely watched
Obviously.
that. Yeah, of course we did. And they were advertising it as this, this is the last time you'll see us play these songs. And for this, then they did this tour, right? And then
Yeah.
during this tour, they were like, this is the last time you'll see us play these songs. So I'm curious if this is actually the last time we'll see them play these songs, one. And then two, I'm curious if his entire, like, stage persona, presence, whatever you want to call it, is going to change as well.
Yeah, I
Like-
could see that if they like changed their subject matter to like something that's not like spacey ambient type thing, that like the whole like robot on stage shtick won't like really like match with the sound necessarily.
And you
So
know,
I
like
wonder-
Lessard at heart just wants to be a pop singer.
He does love his Bieber.
He does love Justin Bieber. Like I genuinely feel like at his core, like that's what he wants to achieve. And with them slowly progressing towards, the rock camp and being more experimental, if he comes out and starts doing like Justin Bieber dances and shit on stage, like, I don't know how I'm gonna handle that.
that would be quite a change. They got like backup dancers now on the payroll too.
They become a boy band.
They're all wearing matching outfits.
I love it.
Oh, I hope not. Instead of keyboards, Eric plays a keytar.
I hope so. That would be awesome.
They go like 80s pop band, not even like modern pop.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Progressing while also regressing. I don't know. I it's just something. I don't think that they'll ever go to that extreme, right? That's exaggeration, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious to see how the band itself is changing relatively significantly, especially if you compare them to their Exoplanet Intrinsic days. I'm curious if
But they also had a different lead singer then too. So
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Lessard came on for Language, and Language was, but then Lessard was the lead vocalist of, what the hell is that?
Is it Last Chance to Reason? Is that?
Yes, Last Chance to Reason. Why couldn't I? Yeah, and they have like those records, like Level 1, Level 2, level whatever. Those records sound like Contortionist clones. So he was a solid vocalist for that, but maybe this was just the spark he needed to like start going towards, his true final
His true
form.
pop star. Feed your inner pop star.
But I like Language. Some days Language is my favorite Contortionist record. Other days Exoplanet is my favorite Contortionist record.
what's today?
Just
After
checking it.
seeing it live, probably Exoplanet, to be honest. I felt like if I was like 10 years younger and like 3 or 4 more beers deep, I would have been hanging from that chandelier.
Like Colleen was trying to do.
Oh, I was thinking about it. It was so tempting.
It's quite a fall though if you miss.
Oh, I know.
But again, the beer and I would have went limp. It would have been fine. I probably would have just like maybe broken ankle.
I don't know. That's a far fall.
You would have died.
Just let me dream. Let me dream. I would have been fine.
He
Someone would've
flapped
caught
his
me.
arms.
Someone would have
wanna-
caught me. Jake from Nihil was down in that pit. He would have saw me. He would have caught me.
Just him by himself
His
Not even
arms
knowing who I
outstretched.
am.
as you fall 3 stories from the ceiling.
Shout out to Jake from Nihil if he's listening to this. But yeah, again, overall, awesome show, awesome bands. I hope that they're both around for a very long time. I hope I can't wait for this new Contortionist record.
I'm excited too.
And yeah, we could probably wrap up here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we were going down the rabbit hole about other
Yeah.
contortionist related things, which I mean is still relevant, but
Yeah, we were talking about boy bands and Justin Bieber,
Yeah.
and I think that's an appropriate spot to end. So, thanks to everyone. Sorry again for the delay. We're hopefully gonna have some more content here coming a little bit more rapidly rather than the month-long hiatus that we went on here.
yeah. So anyone still sticking around, we appreciate you waiting impatiently for another episode.
Hi, Mom.
Absolutely.
Just keeps everyone wanting more,
We
Yeah.
hope. We hope this doesn't get 0 listens.
Yeah, definitely.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
We'll see.
Exactly.
We'll have statistics to back that
Yeah,
theory
but
up.
we got some cool ideas in the works, Matt. I think the idea we were talking about earlier that maybe just you and Colleen are gonna knock out, I think is a cool idea.
Yeah.
We won't spoil it. Wait to see it. And then I've been trying to come up with some ideas as well. And Steph's gave me some pretty cool ideas. Yeah, I'm gonna tell them before you jump on the mic and say I had ideas too. But yeah, I think we got some
Throw
cool
a cheat.
content ideas, and so we're gonna try to keep things fresh and yeah, thanks again. We appreciate you all, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.